Built as an asylum for the orphaned girls of the Crimea, and some said they haunted it still, while others said that it was inhabited by the ghosts of Great War soldiers who had died within its walls. That morning, before Eleanor's workmate Maura had left the office, she'd leaned over the desk and clutched Eleanor's hand. Her soft Irish brogue had been hushed and full of exaggerated kindness. "Good luck, my dear. You do know they torture spies and traitors there, don't you?" Eleanor had laughed, assuming her friend was joking. But as she looked up at the building's French-style turrets and at the roofs that were a sinister grey, like an ominous sky before a thunderstorm, she thought that perhaps it might be true. She straightened her wool skirt and told herself to stop being ridiculous. She was there for a purpose that was unlikely to take very long anyway. In just an hour, she would be back at the Ministry of Food, spinning Maura an outlandish tale about the ghost she had seen. Or maybe she should feign injury and make up a story of how she had been tortured but released, when her captors realized she didn't have any intelligence to share. While the building was foreboding, its vast gardens were inviting. To the east, manicured lawns led down to a lake surrounded by a cathedral of trees. A refreshing wind barely moved the branches, whistling through the long, fragile grasses. They were only 6 miles from the ministry's office at Portman Square, but it was strangely peaceful. Quiet, except for the chatter of finches. The noisy, battle-scarred streets could have been 100 miles away as the afternoon slowed to its natural rhythm. For just a moment, Eleanor felt as if she and Clive were the only people there, until a door banged inside the building. She lowered her head to her driver's window. "I shan't be too long, Clive," she said, her hazel eyes holding his gaze. "You will wait here, won't you?" It was more of a request than a question, and he winked up at her, tapping his grey cap with crooked fingers. "Certainly will, miss." She hoped that he meant it this time, that he wouldn't park the car and stroll around as he had done before, especially when she might be eager to get away. The woodland and bird life might prove too much of a temptation for him, and she really didn't want to be stuck here any longer than necessary. "You don't need to stretch your legs, then?" she asked. "Oh, no, miss," he said, extending them out under the steering wheel. "I reckon they're just about as long as they're going to get." "Jolly good," she said, smiling. Inside, the building was not nearly as impressive. The painted walls were flaking badly, and the plaster had come away in places, leaving large areas of exposed brickwork. The air was so thick with dust that Eleanor wanted to throw open the windows to let the building breathe, but they were bolted shut with grimy locks. Maybe she wasn't in the right place after all. It didn't look like somewhere to bring grieving children for comfort and support. A large entrance hall extended into a reception area with 3 doors and a wide staircase, but the only noise came from the floors above. She followed the echo upwards, slowly trailing behind dust motes that chased the sun before they disappeared into the rooflight. Voices drifted from somewhere higher up, and so she carried on, past the first floor, where rooms stretched along unlit corridors that disappeared into shadows at either end, and up the second set of stairs. The voices were becoming clearer, and she could make out words. The closer she drew, the stronger they became. Tiny voices, some barely more than whispers, singing "Ring-a-ring-a roses." Up here, the walls were in an even poorer condition. Splintered planks of bare wooden studwork gave glimpses into the room behind, where a small group of children sat cross-legged on the floor at the feet of a woman seated on a stool. The woman, in her mid-20s like Eleanor, flipped through a book as they started on a new nursery rhyme. "Sing a song of sixpence, a pocket full of rye, 24 blackbirds baked in a pie. When the pie was opened, the birds began to sing." When the woman glanced up, Eleanor raised her hand in greeting. The woman waved back as she continued to sing. Eleanor drew closer, so she was level with the door, and was so absorbed by the children singing that it was a moment until she noticed the outline of a man.